The Fourth Corporate War absolutely devastated all of the world. It completely collapsed multiple countries, turning famous cities to rubble, and it ruined millions of people's lives. When it came to an end in 2023, Night City was the final one to feel the full force of these warring megacorporations as a nuke went off within the city centre, annihilating the Arasaka Tower and the people in the nearby vicinity. 20 years later, this part of Night City remained a ruin of what was once a beautiful place to live, and is simply named the Hot Zone, a place that is filled with the shadows of skyscraper frames and other destroyed buildings. But what goes on here in the year of 2045? Is it still livable, and what locations are still open within it? Well, in today's episode, we look into the most hostile location in Night City, as well as the factions that inhabit this area. This is the Hot Zone from Cyberpunk Red. In the year 2077, the city centre is now absolutely beautiful. The neon lights glow and almost invite everyone to go and see it. And the megacorps have their skyscrapers back up and running and looking as modern and glorious as ever. Within the middle is also two circling koi fish, a symbolic image that represents the idea of strength, perseverance, and good fortune in Japanese culture. It's no surprise the city centre is looking the way it does now. With Arasaka back in the mix, their funds and their workers would have most likely teamed up with the nomad workers and flipped it around to make this beautiful image of prosperity. But for years, around 50 to be exact, this whole area was just one filled with red clouds of radiation and ash, where blocks upon blocks were filled with ruined buildings, flooded hotels, and a world that was void of any real colour or neon light. It was a truly terrifying thing to see, almost like a desert where life simply could not exist, as if the whole of humanity had been wiped out and this was their final resting place, a glimpse into an ancient civilization that is now extinct. Not only that, but it was eerily quiet as well. So not only would the sight of it terrify you, but you'd feel like you were the only one left in this bleak, horrifying world. 22 years had passed since that fateful day where the bombs went off, and construction had been going on within this specific location. However, despite all of the city's efforts to bring it back to light, toppled buildings still linger there, and millions of scrap lay on the ground, covering the bodies of people that were either killed in the blast or were trapped and unable to be saved. But on top of all of that, it was also coated in heavily radiated lung-eating cancer dust, meaning that even if you were able to find something of high value there would be a price to pay if you were to just grab it. Many people like to believe that the Hot Zone is just a horrifying tale, a piece of corporate propaganda that is just trying to keep people away from the precious things living there, or even a braindance story of a post-apocalyptic world. But sadly, this is reality, and for those who have gone in brave thinking they can stomach this part of Night City, they have either gone missing there or have left horrified and scarred from the very sight of it. You could take on the multiple gangs within the city, have dealt with poverty and corruption, and felt like nothing could affect you anymore, but the Hot Zone will change that. It will ruin the most hardened veterans and be far more hostile to you than any human or mech you have fought off before. It's not just the sight, it's everything that lay there that can harm you as well. As mentioned, it's the radiation, it's the unstable skyscrapers that could topple over at any minute, or their floors could break away, plunging you into a piece of diamond carbon debris. It's the hundreds of sinkholes that have formed over the years, and some that might be filled with tons of toxic materials, or shattered glass from the buildings, or even electrical cables that still hang from high places that could either be still active or just in your way. Extremely experienced nomad clans have been hired for years trying to rebuild this location and clean it up for future Night City generations. However, even they, who have seen some horrible things over the years, have to live outside of the area, and when doing their job, lose tons of people along the way due to the incredibly hostile location. Regardless of everything I've just said, this area still witnesses hundreds, if not thousands of people living within the area, which either shows how insane a lot of the people of Night City are, or also how desperate they are to find that piece of tech that they can sell to make some insane eddies. These individuals, most of the time just refugees, seek out safe locations where they can set up shop, with a lot of these places being things like basements of buildings. Not only that, of course, you have your classic scabbers who venture to the area to of course find things of value, who will dig sites that look perfect for them and dig until they find something. And then there are of course those who want that thrill of seeing and feeling this part of Night City, people who are usually heavily dwarfed up, who are simply trying to get that high from the danger. But there's also also the corporations who clearly want to try and recover what they lost back in the 2020s, and they will do anything to retrieve it. If that means sending in large groups of troops who will lose quite a lot of their lives, they will do it. And if they need to take out anyone they see in the area, they will do that as well. Technically, there is no law and order here, so they can do whatever they like in this part of the world. If it's not clear by now, there are no rules in the hot zone. Anything can happen here, and it brings out the worst of humankind. It's truly a desperate place, and if you found yourself here, then you truly are at the lowest point, because quite honestly, no one deserves the zone, regardless of what you have done in your life. But with that said, surely there must be someone watching over this part of Night City. I mean, it's right in the heart of the city. There must be someone on security or looking after the place, or even making sure people are watched on a regular basis. Well, technically the Night City Council oversees all of it, but ultimately it doesn't have a representative or manager or anything like that. I mean, how could it? There is nothing to really watch over other than the broken skyscrapers. There's definitely no building to hold council meetings or even hold elections. But that said, this area did used to be the West Coast's priciest real estate, so the Night City Council does not want to lose that at all, or give it away to someone else. Because of this, the council fully funds the cleanup duty going on within there and hires all of the nomads who perform this work, as they desperately try to clear it meter by meter, year by year. As for protecting the nomads, the city doesn't really want to at the end of the day, but now they have to, because without them, who is going to do this job? So here they pay security providers to stop any that want to harm the nomads and stop the working from continuing. As for security, the area does not have any police, as you can imagine. Instead, drones are on patrol on the outskirts of the zone's edge, and they are pretty noticeable, making it clear that you cannot go in unless you want to be targeted by these said drones. However, if you were to avoid them somehow and break into the zone, you will notice, like mentioned earlier, there is no one really there to protect it. There's no police, no drones, no mechs, nothing. It'll just be you and the other brave individuals who want to see what this place is all about. NCPD do have the authority to arrest people found within the hot zone or just on the border of it, but you won't ever see them doing it. I mean, what NCPD officer is going to risk their life to do that? They're not paid enough to even go near that place. That said, they might not venture there on foot or by car, but some officers will fly over the zone in heavily armored AVs with door-mounted sniper rifles ready to shoot at anyone they see with a gun, and especially if they are firing it. Not only that, but their main targets are the scavs, who they will seek out and dump tons of gas grenades on them to make sure that their little battles with others do not spill into the rest of Night City. Essentially, the NCPD use this as getting rid of the undesirables from the city, almost like fish in a barrel. Not only that, but according to some rumors, one wealthy individual in Charter Hill, who has their own AV, offers up tours of the area so that, if the people who go on it can snipe or drop barrel bombs on squatters living there just for fun, really. This is pretty horrifying for those innocent parties living there just wanting to survive, if you can even call them innocent, that is. Ultimately, if you are to live in this area as a refugee, you will have to be heavily armored up and kitted out with some great firearms, or you will feel the full force of the NCPD fly overhead, the scavs and corporations, and random rich individuals flying over in an AV looking to cause some chaos just for fun. But living here isn't really a choice. Yes, I've said that people are here within this part of the city, but for a lot of corporate scavs or private scavs, they venture in but never stay there to live. Those who do actually live here are really bottom of the barrel individuals, those who have absolutely nothing left in their life, have no friends or family at all, or are on the run from the gangs of the city, or have just been plain rejected by their own communities. Now they have to just do anything and everything to survive, which of course includes scavving, begging, stealing, running drugs, and body trades. Of course, because of that lifestyle, it also means there are some individuals who run the show. These are of course gangsters and extremely dangerous criminals who can be seen as monsters for anyone who witnesses them, because despite everything said about the zone, they love it here and thrive in its destruction. The longer you stay and survive in this hot zone, the more powerful you become, turning from one of those desperate individuals to potentially a mob boss. Over the 20 years since the formation of this hot zone, it has actually been getting smaller thanks to the nomads working here, widening more and more area which goes into the Glen, Little Europe, and the Upper Marina. but that does go on to upset a few people, more specifically the gang of Maelstrom, who make it their mission to hunt down these reclamation sites and shut them down as quickly as they can, or at least sabotage their equipment. The same applies for scaver groups and reckoners, who do the same thing as reported by the NCPD. So that is essentially how this part of Night City works. It is a location you really do not want to be found within, but that said, you will be able to survive it, you just need to know how to survive, and also the key locations where you can hunker down and maybe create contacts if you've got the skills to do so. Our first location within the hot zone is the Ashcroft Hotel, a familiar place for people who know of Maelstrom history. This location is of course an abandoned hotel that is placed almost directly near the center of the zone. The thing about the Ashcroft Hotel is that it is completely split in two, right down the middle, but the two wings keep it upright and somehow its roof is still on the top of it. It looks like a perfect place to seek shelter if you were trying to avoid NCPD patrols or blood rain falling from the sky. However, entering it, you'll soon realize that this is in fact a Maelstrom headquarters run by their chief scaver, so immediately you'll witness the tons of traps and guards all over it. Getting to it, of course, is one thing, entering it is another, but if you were to upset Maelstrom at all, they will bring hell down upon you, and that would be a horrific way to go, especially if you've made it this far in the hot zone. The next location is simply called The Crater, which is where Arasaka Towers once stood. Now in 2045, a building is almost unrecognizable here, and instead, the rubble heap that is here is around 50 meters deep. So at the end of the day, it's just a massive piece of rubble, right? Well, the problem is, a massive rumor goes around all of Night City, and especially in the hot zone, that somewhere underneath it lays some extremely precious treasure, and every scaver wants a piece of this pie. Of course, because of this, many of the surface parts of it have been thoroughly picked over, but some are still not satisfied with that and instead are desperate to find tunnels that dive down deep into the really low down sub-basements. But that's not all. The gang that seem to live here a lot, the Reckoners, who are an end-of-the-world cult, believe that this whole location is a religious holy site, where their prophets frequently stand here preaching about it, chanting about how the proto-harvest perpetrated at the center of the Dark City, and how it marks the coming of something gibberish. Because this is a major holy site to them, it is heavily guarded to protect their prophets as their guards known as Pure Souls patrol the area. So essentially, you'll know you found the crater if you start finding individuals with glassy eyes holding SMGs and are clearly suffering from cancer. The Crisis Center was where the big medical units lived back in the day. Originally, Trauma Team and Crisis Medical would be placed right next to each other in what was named the Old Medical Center. Despite not being within the blast area, they were still devastated by it, and it completely wiped them out. That said, it's not 100% sure what actually wiped out this area, so many different stories tell of different reasons. Some say it was an orbital strike, some say it was an AV crash, and others say it was down to soil liquefaction. Regardless of what happened during that horrific time, both the Trauma Team and Crisis Medical were wiped out and turned into just one big tangled mess, which then resulted in horrific fires that raged throughout this whole neighborhood. Now that has all died down and the building or buildings now turned into one, it's just left as a ruin of something that was once so helpful. All of the medical equipment is just left sitting there, as well as things like radioactive material and of course tons of drug caches, making this whole area extremely valuable and one of the most popular and violent locations for scavers in the whole of the hot zone. Next is Dark Zone 1, which is a very different landmark compared to the other ones on this list. This is simply because it has never been witnessed by anyone really. Anyone who tries to either fly a drone into the area or step foot within it will be immediately taken out by a mysterious sniper who never misses a shot. If someone was to fly a drone over the area and take shots of it, they will immediately return back completely scrambled, distorted, and you'll not be able to see anything from it. Because of how highly controlled this point is, it's quite clear to many that one of the corporations has set up shop here and are doing a big project undercover, making sure that no one sees it. Before the hot zone existed, there were a few corporations who sat on this very site. Those included Raven Microbe, EBM, and Infocomp, so any of them could have made it back to where their stuff was and started once again. That said, Infocomp housed absolutely tons of vital data, and because of it, if any other corporation knew about that, it could be them searching the ruins of it to find that data, and with it intact, could completely upset the balance of power and flip the whole corporate world upside down. So if you were to see what was going on in Dark Zone 1, make sure you get out alive so you can tell the rest of the world what is going on there, and maybe even expose this mysterious corporation and their activities to their rivals for some amazing eddies, but also to watch the corporations cause chaos. The dump sounds exactly like what it is. This is basically a massive field that lies near the border of old Japantown, and it is where all of the wreckage from the hot zone is sorted before its removal. This is also where the city's poorest go to squat, as they set up large camps in and around the dump. That said, it's not all that bad really. Yes, there is endless loud noise and tons of crater dust that fills the air, but you get to seek shelter within the surviving low-rise buildings located here, and you'll be able to do as much scavenging as you want, picking through all of the trash that goes through here without any real consequence, unlike some of the other locations. Despite having multiple deaths every day here and a pretty big maelstrom presence, the dump is actually considered the safest place to live within all of the hot zone. One of the first places you might hear about when talking to someone about the hot zone is a place called Eurasia Bank, mainly because a lot of these stories told people that within this bank there is hard currency and gold that still remains in it. Of course, many scavvers have been to what is named the Eurasia Bank Plaza and have left extremely disappointed or have never returned at all. This is because when the nukes went off, instead of being completely flattened or falling over or being completely destroyed, the bank building fell downwards into the floor, leaving 6 of its floors submerged underground, and many of them have water flooded in them. Scavvers were the first to report of the many sunken floors in the bank, saying that many were passable, just a little flooded. But it quickly became apparent that these areas were far bigger than they imagined, and to get down into the vaults, server rooms and file storages where all of the really good stuff remains, it is almost a death sentence, as they are completely flooded and filled with terrifying hazards. So yes, whilst the bank can probably be an amazing grab for loot, it's probably not wise to venture in it, unless you have a death wish or the perfect equipment for the deep dive. Another medical area is located here within the hot zone named Graceland Medical, and is run by the gang named the Lightning Cats. These gangsters, who have modified their whole bodies to look like cats, took over the Jellicoe Inn, which used to be a cat cosplay hotel, don't ask, but was abandoned as the Barbican building that was next to it collapsed fully on it. But it's not just them who live here. A med tech named Father Grace lives within their garage in an armoured mobile clinic from City Med's pre-war charity programs. Father Grace, of course, being a proud pastor for the Global Church of Elvis. Father Grace came here back in the 2030s and is considered the hot zone's beloved saint. With this title on him, Father Grace regularly ventures around to scaver locations and offers up his services, giving everyone medical treatment if they need it, and it's completely for free as well. Instead, he just likes to share with his customers weird religious videos about the glory of the king. So if you do go into the hot zone, you might find an old man wearing a sequined cape and panther sculpted meat guards blessing places with free meds, and you'll be delighted to see him, I'm sure. That said, all of the clinic and the meds are paid for by him, and no one seems to know how he can afford to keep it going, and how he gets all of the meds as well. Even City Med has no record of a Father Grace or the vehicle that he ventures around in, so is he actually real? An angel sent from above, or someone who has a stockpile located somewhere that he doesn't tell anyone about? Once the pride and joy of the media superpower N54, the N54 building still remains the tallest structure left in the hot zone, looming over everything else within the area, almost as if it's still watching what everyone does, keeping a note of their actions like the journalists did back when this wasn't the hot zone. Because of how high this building goes, it of course attracts those who want to experience the thrill of heights, and when they do venture up the building and reach the top, will tag their name or symbol up there. That said, there is one spot left there that will never have graffiti on it, and that is shared throughout all of the hot zone. This spot is a single tent which is sheltering a heavily rad roasted corpse of an individual they simply call Layla, who is still holding an iconic FN Rao assault rifle that was massively popular in the 2020s. The reason for why they are called this is because of an old story about a guardian angel. Alongside the corpse is one piece of writing that simply states Black Hand was right, almost like a message to all of those who go to see it. Now, when getting up to the top to make your tag, it is said that you have to salute Layla and you cannot mess with their stuff at all. If you do that, it is told that you will be forever cursed. Maybe this is all just superstitious rubbish, but are you willing to risk that, especially at the highest point of the hot zone? Another part of the hot zone that is seen as superstitious is the site known as Safe Child, a place that used to once be a famous daycare center for all of Night City. However, now it is rumored that this place is filled with the ghosts of dead children and the caretaker who still roams it. But that's just one theory. The other one is that the kids and the caretaker are just in cryostasis somewhere below the building, or even that they are still alive, but they have all become insanely feral and incredibly hostile to anyone that comes into the area. Of course, these stories have meant that most avoid this area like the plague. It's really not worth it to go there, because even if the rumors are true about what goes on within there, what could this daycare possibly have that's worth going through all of that horror and paranoia? Personally for me, the sheer idea of a potentially haunted daycare center where the ghosts of children loiter there still is enough to put me off never going into the hot zone ever. For those who have a love for guns and all things explosive, there is said to be a place in the hot zone for you. That is called Toggle's Temple, which is run by a tech named Toggle, who is known for his faulty firmware. To access this area, you will have to be personally invited by Toggle himself, but he's incredibly picky about who he lets in and absolutely despises anyone from a corporate background or even has corporate links. However, if you were to get into this area, you will become witness to a gun collection unlike any other, where one of every gun ever made is on display, and with it a massive luxury firing range and an assortment course which you can use for just 20 eddies. Certainly one of the places you have to go and see if you find yourself in this zone, depending on if Toggle likes you or not, that is. And finally, the last location that is notable is of course the place filled with the partying Maelstrom members, the club known as the Totentans. In the eyes of many, this building is like the zone's castle, and the denizens within it are the rulers of everything around them. Before the nuke went off, this whole building was under regular attacks from boosters who were desperate to tear it apart. However, Maelstrom would always fend it off, and even after the nukes fell, Maelstrom continued to defend the Totentans, rescuing all of the bar as well as its home within the Burleson Tower, repairing it constantly and making sure it constantly stays up. No nuke was going to destroy their landmark and most prized possession. Because of all of this, the Totentans is filled with Maelstrom who own it completely. They have security all over it, own and run the clubs inside of it, and occupy every level within it. As this is their pride and joy, they will also regularly attack anyone that tries to make the surrounding area of it better. So if any nomad cleanup crews venture even remotely near them, they will of course be taken out or massively hindered in their goal. For those that just want to see the club, however, they are in luck, because it is always free of entry, and the smash there, which is the drink sold, is always 50% off. So you can drink and dance to your heart's content, unaware that right next to you is a cyber psycho ready to kick off at any minute. Despite Maelstrom having a reputation for being incredibly violent, most nights at this club are actually relatively peaceful. That is simply because Warlock, the leader of Maelstrom during this time, wants to make sure people can keep coming back, so they can not only have a good time and spend their eddies, but so they can also trade their tech and drugs that they've probably found within the hot zone. That said, you better not get into trouble within Totentans, because once you leave and the bouncers can't see you anymore, you will not be protected at all, so anyone can harm you, especially if you stepped on the toes of a cyber psycho looking to fight someone. But overall, whilst the hot zone does have places to stay and go and see within it, it is certainly not somewhere you'd want to visit on just a regular day out. This area is for seriously hardened individuals who either want to prove how hard they are, or for those who are desperate to make a living and will do anything to get it, as we explored earlier. It certainly is a unique location, and I'm sure there are far more dodgy dealings going on within its borders. Who knows what some of the corporations are up to in this area? What is going on within Dark Zone 1? What are the secrets hidden under the rubble, and what happened between 2045 and 2077 within this area? Well, hopefully that is something we will get to explore at a later date, and maybe there will be a chance to explore an area similar in a future game. But for now though, this has been the full lore behind Night City's most deadly location. This is the Hot Zone from Cyberpunk Red. I want to say a big thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and all of the lore told in this video came from the Night City 2045 sourcebook, which is an incredible read if you haven't got it already. A big thanks to my patrons as well for their endless support, including my small fishes, my big fish Anthony Bonfiglio, my YouTube channel Wise1, Sith Lord 906, Video Game Player 7555, the Nanotarium, and Amanda Berlin, my sharks Dan F, Lorena R, and Hazy Thoughts, and my Megalodons Sinus. But that is all for now though. Thank you again for watching, and I shall see you all in the next one. Cheers.